Welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Hartley. This podcast exists to equip and inspire your heart-centered leadership. Every week, we bring interviews with some of the greatest heart sets and mindsets on the planet. I hope the heartprint of our time spent together is that it creates new possibilities for you and all those you come into contact with. If you'd like to explore what we could make possible for you, then head to abty.co.uk/connect and book in a free 30-minute call to begin our journey together. I just want to express a huge amount of gratitude to our sponsors, Exhale Coffee. I have been a big fan of Exhale Coffee since meeting Alex and the team back in 2022. Exhale is the first coffee to be sourced, roasted and lab tested specifically to maximize its antioxidant and anti-inflammatory potency. An independent lab test has shown that 1 cup of Exhale Coffee has the same antioxidant power as 1.8 kilos of blueberries or 55 oranges. I'm a huge fan, and Mrs. H loves the decaf, especially because she knows that Exhale use the mountain water decaffeination process, which uses only pure glacial water from the highest mountain in Mexico and no nasty chemicals. Simply head to exhalecoffee.com/ABTY for your special offer. And lastly, before I introduce this week's guest, please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It would really help us leave a greater heartprint on this world. On episode 264, what an honour it is to welcome Dr. Bruce Lipton back to the podcast. Dr. Bruce is an internationally recognised leader in bridging science and spirit. He is the best-selling author of The Biology of Belief, the co-author of Spontaneous Evolution, and the author of The Honeymoon Effect, the science of creating heaven on earth. Dr. Bruce was first on the podcast in 2021. One of our episodes got removed from YouTube. It was great to be able to catch up with Dr. Bruce and hear his observations of the world. And we talk about the honeymoon effect, the science of creating heaven on earth. And I know that this community are the type of people that want to create heaven on earth. So you're going to want to listen to the end. It's episode 264 with Dr. Bruce Lipton. Dr. Bruce Lipton, welcome back to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. How are you, my brother?
I am one of the happiest people in this world, and I really want to thank you for your gracious support of my opportunity to speak out in defense of what the government said don't say.
Right, right. We were just having a little chat off air, and February 2022, you came on the show the first time in the middle of all of the nonsense that was going on in the world. And yes, the video that I put out was labeled a wake-up call, take our power back, a call to take our power back. And there was something that was said in that interview that the World Health Organization didn't like, and it took a video down. What's your response to that, Dr. Bruce?
Well, we call that freedom of speech.
Right, right. Mad. I had some family members who weren't necessarily versed in your work, and they were like, how's that the case? I said, this guy's done 60 years worth of cell biology. And you think, come on, man, like, let the guy speak. Hasn't he got an opinion that's worth hearing? Like, come on now.
Well, I want to thank you. And also, I looked into your work with the heart, and I have to say, this is one of the most important approaches to helping our evolution, is to get people get touch in their heart, because we always want to stay in the head, and your work with the heart is very important. And matter of fact, if I have a moment, I just want to emphasize the nature of how important the heart is. When we have to make a decision, an important decision in life, should I do this or should I do that? We activate our mind and start to go through pros and cons. This is good decision. This is a bad decision. Good, bad, blah, 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 blah. And then you get to the bottom line and say, well, okay, I think it's a good decision. And then you base it on that. I say, that is a mistake. I say, why? Because one error in the interpretation of pro and con can radically change the outcome of that decision. So I said, well, how would I make a decision? I tell you exactly how to make a decision. Do exactly what we just said, pro, con, blah, blah, blah. But don't make that decision until you do what? And I say, ask your heart. Go for the feeling. I say, why? The heart doesn't do the pro, con, whatever it does. The heart does vibration. And energy is vibration. And when you go for a feeling feeling is the vibration. Feeling is an energy.
Mm.
And the point about it is this: life is based on energy. Yes, absolutely, 100%. And I go, but guess what? We're designed as biological organisms to avoid losing energy and always go toward increasing your energy. So I say, when you make a decision, I say, should I do A or B?
Mm.
You could ask yourself and say, should I do B? And I say, then go for the feeling. Don't go for the thinking, go for the feeling. Why? The heart is a sensory device to
Mm.
read energy. And it can tell you, I say, well, what can it tell you? You can say, oh, that I feel really good about that. Or I'm not so sure about that. And I say, that's what the heart is telling you. I say, that is the most precise mechanism for making a decision because it doesn't care about the details. It just says, give me the energy consequence. And either it's going to be
Yeah.
more energy, no difference in energy, or less energy. And if it turns less energy, you can feel it. It just doesn't feel right. I
Mm.
don't like that feeling. I go, that's the information your heart is telling you that this
Mm.
decision vibrationally is not supporting you at all to do that.
Can it
Or
can
the
it
heart goes, go. Yeah.
can it be deceived?
What's that? The heart?
Yeah.
Not as easy as the mind. The mind
Yeah.
could be easily deceived, and it always is. The heart has a pretty good record of what? It just reads the vibration. Life
Mm.
is vibration. If the decision is right, you're going to feel more positive in your body. You're going to feel it, okay? If the decision is wrong, it's called the biological imperative. What the hell is that? I go, built into every living organism, from the most primitive organism on the planet, bacteria, to humans. Science has recognized that something exists called the biological imperative. I say, what is that? It is the drive to survive.
Mm.
I go, well, where is that located? I go, well, first of all, it's in bacteria. I go, well, there's hardly anything to look for. Where the hell is it located? And I say, well, give me an example. I say, yeah, sure. You want to kill the bacteria, you put some antiseptic on it. And I say, now the antiseptic is coming in. I say, so the bacteria, do you think it's going to go, okay, kill me? No,
Mm.
hell no. The bacteria will try to do everything in its power to survive, even affecting a change in the genetics, trying to overcome it. So I say, the bacteria doesn't give up. It has a drive to survive. And we do too. And it's called the biological imperative. It's really, I think it's just basic an energy gauge that says, is the energy supporting me in the world,
Mm.
or is the energy antagonistic to me in the world? That's all it wants to know. Give a simple understanding. How important is energy? Well, here's just a model idea. A snail comes out of an egg. I go, so what? I said, well, there's no mother, there's no father, there's no school. I say, oh, it just dropped into the world. How does it know what to do? And I go, there's one gauge on the dashboard of the sail. I say, what is it? It's energy gauge. I go, why? I said, as the sail moves into the world, if it starts moving in this direction and the energy goes lower,
Mm.
the biological imperative will have it turn around and go in the opposite direction. And if it comes upon a plant, should I eat this plant or should I not? Well, just like shamans, the snail reads the energy of the plant. If the
Mm.
energy of the plant is in harmony with the snail, then it says, okay, that's me and the plant, we're good.
Mm.
But if it comes upon a plant and the energy isn't right, the snail doesn't eat the plant. Why? Because it already feels that the energy of the plant is lower than the energy of the snail. Lesser energy, lesser life. I say, we do this all the time without even paying attention to it. It's your feelings. And I go, but that was the more accurate gauge than the consciousness. Because say what consciousness is programmed? Did it get
Yeah.
programmed correctly or incorrectly? I go, I don't know. That's your program, how you got it. But feelings are feelings.
Yeah.
Inde- independent of program. All it does is read, am I going in the right direction in my world? Am I meeting the right people? Am
Mm.
I doing the right work? I say, how do you know? Because if you're doing the right thing, it gives you energy. And if you're doing the wrong thing, it takes away your energy. I go, that's a simple on off, basically. And what we need to do is come back to heart feelings.
Yeah.
Heart is not a pump only. A heart is a sensory device. It
Mm.
reads. Do you pay attention to your feelings? A lot of people don't. I
Mm.
go, what do you mean? Because we were programmed when we were kids. Oh, don't go by your feelings. Listen
Yeah.
to what the person has to say. And I go, that was the first blinding in your power, because feelings are the primary motivation of every organism, from a bacterium to a human. You let go
Wow.
of feelings and you're moving blindly through this world. And your work with the
Mm.
heart says, let's get back in touch with the heart. Why? It was the first organ to evolve, interestingly enough. And
Yeah.
it's the most important organ, because you take that one out, the rest of the system gone anyway. You can take the pancreas out, you can take the stomach out, you can take a lung out, you can take a kidney out. Don't take the heart out.
It's the consequences. Well, the last time that you and I spoke, we talked about this really important phase of 0 to 7, that programming phase where we learn everything in those first 7 years. And, I wonder to what level that society has conditioned us out of those feelings, and my conspiratorial brain goes, well, that's a byproduct of commercialism, capitalism, because it's a great way of making people feel like they lack, that the power is outside of them, that if I can just fill myself with something outside of myself, then my feelings, that we're being used on our feelings, aren't we? Come and get this, and the greatest thing, Bruce, I've done with my children, and the most annoying, is I've taught them the hidden meanings behind every advert they'll ever see on TV. Right? It's a gift because they can see it. It's a curse because they don't stop telling me. Like, oh, Dad, that Coke advert, they just want you to be happy. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. And
Yeah.
it's everywhere, isn't it? Though, and that's what I meant around the deception with our feelings, is because marketeers have been using our feelings to make us consumers for decades.
Oh my God, propaganda, which is actually called advertising, uh,
Right. Yeah.
was there was a guy, actually a relative of Sigmund Freud, Edward Bernays, and he's the guy who actually published a book on propaganda back in like the 20s or
Mm.
something, 1920s. And the significance about that was he really revealed the mechanism of how to control people with a story.
Mm.
And, he did so many different things. One of the things is the cigarette company back in those days were selling cigarettes to men. Oh, women don't smoke. Mm-mm. What did Bernays do? Came up with the advertising thing. Easter Sunday, the big parade in New York City, Easter parade. He had a whole bunch of women all dressed up, and guess what they were doing? Smoking as the parade was going on. What was the point? It's okay for you women to smoke. See these women smoking? And all of a sudden it became, oh yeah, women can smoke. And then the next thing you know, they were joining men in the tobacco hunt and killing themselves with it. But it was an idea of what? Belonging. I
Yeah.
want to belong. And I said, well, how do you belong? I said, well, they'll tell you how to belong.
Yeah. One of the things that was thrown around over the last few years is trust the science, trust the science. And I've got a scientific background. I was an analytical, psychologist type, and I understood that science was the testing of ideas, right? But here we've got like this community like being forced. There were certain aspects that were, we can't listen to that side of science, and so I think science is there's a deep untrust, deep mistrust for whatever is being used, because how is it that we get these big pharma, these big food, all these companies financially involved in their own studies, right? How is that the case? Because
Well,
ultimately,
I think the biggest thing we have to clear up right now in this very moment, and to me, is the most important fact, because this is where it got screwed. I go, what is
mm,
it? Well, I'm a scientist.
mm,
I say, oh, bad news. Science is bad, bad, bad. I go, wait a minute.
right,
Science isn't bad. Science is a quest for understanding.
right,
What's bad is technology, because technology takes the science,
yeah,
makes a product out of it. You get screwed by the product and they blame science. I say, no, they are the money makers. A true scientist does not make a product. A true
mm,
scientist is basically creating an understanding. If it's an understanding is used by a company, then they claim science did that. I say, no, science didn't do that. Science offered insight. Technology wanted to make money off of the insight. So
mm.
they use that technology for their benefit. If it doesn't work, then they go back and, well, science. I go, no, science didn't do that. You did that. So I need to really just emphasize this right now because you brought it up. I say science has always been very clear what its mission is to make an understanding and awareness. It does not make a product. If a scientist makes a product, now they're a technologist. They're taking science to do something else. And so I want to clear it up because I'm a scientist and I get really irritated when they say, oh, blame science. I say, for what? What did
Yeah.
we make? We didn't make anything.
Yeah, and that's it's important, isn't it? And I know that's something you've been talking about for a while now is this new science, and I don't think that many people have a great understanding or a comprehension of what it means to be new science and quantum physics. I think the great thing you do, Bruce, is you simplify it. You make this so practical and understandable for the benefit of our audience. What is new
Hey,
science?
benefit for myself. You know, when I have
Great.
to understand it, I have to take it apart just as much as anybody else take it apart. But then I have to put in words that so my kid brain goes, yeah, oh, I can understand now that you said that. And I figure if my kid brain can get it, then I can talk to the audience and their kid brains can get
What a
it. And then we
gift.
got
What a gift. So new science. Talk to us about the bit because there are some things in our last conversation that are real kind of like they bring up this cognitive dissonance in people who say, well, that's not what I've been taught. Like genes don't cause cancer, and and a variety of a variety of different.
who's selling the product.
Right,
That,
right, right, right.
that's it. And the
Consciousness
idea,
and
it's a simple fact. There is no gene that causes cancer. And I said that before, and I'll say it again and again. I said, you
yeah,
show me a gene, you got this gene, you get cancer.
yeah,
I'll show you what you call a cancer gene, and then I'll say, yes, certain percentage of people will get cancer with that particular gene. But you never talk about the large percentage of people that didn't get the cancer and they still have the gene. So
mm-hmm.
what was the point? Possession of the gene did not cause cancer. And I go, well, what causes cancer? And then you say, oh, well, oh, genes control the character of our lives. And I go, well, that's a bunch of BS,
Yeah,
belief system in a polite way. And I go, so why is that important? Because we've been programmed to be what? You went to school. What did you learn? Genes control my characteristics. Okay, great. And I say, what about genes? Well, did you pick them? I said, as far as we know, I didn't pick the genes, but I got them. Okay, wait. If you don't like the characteristics, can you change those genes? They go, no, you can't do that either. I said, and what else do we add? Just to add this. Oh, genes turn on and off by themselves. I say, put those things together, what I
yeah,
just said,
yeah, yeah,
and I programmed a victim because you're going to say, oh, genes control my life. I don't control my genes. I don't know how to control my genes. So therefore, somebody else has to help me control my genes. I give up. I'm the victim. Who's going to help? And then we run to the pharmaceutical company. And of course, they're so anxious to help because they want to sell you all the chemistry that they're
yeah.
creating. And I want to emphasize this as a very important fact. I say, the belief that genes turn on and off is 100% false. Genes are blueprints. I go, what do you mean? I say, the body is made out of protein molecules, 100,000 different versions. Proteins wear out.
Mm,
I say, yeah, well, they wear out, then you have to replace them. I said, well, how do you replace them? They're very complex molecules. They go, the gene is the blueprint to make the protein. So I
mm,
go, it's a blueprint. And I go, let's
mm,
take this one step in a different way. I go, you go into an architect's office
mm.
and she's working on a blueprint. And I want you to lean over and say, excuse me, is your blueprint on or off? And she
Yeah,
would look at you like, what are you crazy? It's a
yeah, yeah,
blueprint.
yeah,
There's no on and off.
yeah.
Ah, ah, that was the point. A blueprint is not a self-regulating blueprint. It doesn't regulate itself. A, a blueprint requires an architect. For what? To read the blueprint. I said, what's the architect in the human body? Go, the mind
Mm,
is selecting the genetic activity. And I go, simplify it very easily. I said, what? It's the chemistry of the blood that nourishes the cells and is the environment of the cells that has information in it. Neuropeptides, emotional chemicals,
mm,
hormones, growth factors, blah, blah, blah. These are not nutrition elements in the blood. These are information elements in the blood. I go, so what? Those chemistry things like hormones, etc., engage the genes. So I say, oh, it's the chemistry in the blood that controls the genes. Well, that was my research from 1967, for sure. That's what I showed. It wasn't in the genes, it was in the environment, which is the blood. So I say, oh, so my blood contains the chemistry, which activates my genes. I go, okay, that's a true fact. Next true fact. Well, who regulates the chemistry of the blood? Oh, true fact. The brain is the chemist. Okay. So the brain determines what chemistry and signals are going to be going into the blood, which are then going to go to the cells and control them. And I go, the brain does that. And then the biggest, last, most important question is, so what chemistry should the brain be putting into the blood? And the answer is, oh my God. The answer is what? Whatever picture you hold in your mind, the
Yes.
brain translates that picture into what
Yes.
is called complementary chemistry. So there's a chemistry of love. Yeah, that's a different chemistry than fear, which is a different chemistry than anger. And I go, so what's the point? It's the interpretation of your mind by the brain, which is the chemist, to make sure that the chemistry released by the brain matches the picture in the mind.
Right.
And I said, so what? Change your mind, change the genetics. Oh my, oh, what does that mean? Well, you've been programmed to be a victim. Genes control you, they control themselves, you don't control them. I go, that's 100% false. It's
Mm.
your consciousness
Mm.
that is then turning the chemistry, which in turn activates the genetic expression.
Mm.
So when you change the chemistry, you change the genetics. But the genes don't change chemistry, you change the chemistry.
It's
And I
powerful.
go, let's break it down to the simplest. Okay. Well, for 100 years, we know something about what's called the placebo effect. I
Yeah.
go, what's the placebo effect? Well, I've got this chronic illness, and the doctor just showed me this is the newest medication. This is
Mm.
this is this is the new medicine for you. Oh, and I take the medicine, and then I get better, and I go, "Thank you, doctor. That was the greatest medicine." And then it turns out it was a sugar pill.
Yeah. Right.
And I say, "Oh yeah, we call that the placebo." I say, "Yeah, but what does it mean?" It
Mm.
wasn't the pill that healed you. It was your belief in the pill that healed you. And I go, oh, so that's the example of what people deny, and it's called positive thinking. Placebo is the consequence of positive thinking. I go, that's great. And then I go, so what about that? And I go, oh, wait, that was a result of positive thinking. Is there a consequence of negative thinking? Huh. Yes, it's equally powerful in controlling your behavior, your genetics, and your life. Negative thinking is equally powerful to positive thinking, but it works in the opposite direction.
Mhm.
Placebo can heal you of any disease. The negative thinking called nocebo can cause any disease. It can even cause you to die if you believe you're going to die. Your belief system will shut your system down and you will die. The idea, oh,
Mm.
cancer comes from genes. 90% of cancer, there's not even anybody in the family lineage that had the cancer.
Right.
And all of a sudden it shows up. It's like, oh, what, they get a new gene? No, their picture in their mind is disharmony.
Yeah.
And that's what activated the gene. There's no gene that says, I turn on, I give you cancer. No, no.
Stress and fear. Stress and fear.
That's what it's all about. And that's why, is the media giving you positive information, or is the media taking
Mm.
away your power and selling you what you might need in
Mm.
your disempowered state? Oh, you need this, and
Yeah.
you need this.
Yes.
So who said that? They said, well, the advertising told me. I go, oh, Edward Bernays, propaganda. That's the other word for advertising. And the idea
Yeah.
about it is we have been sold a bill of goods. So now they'll probably cancel this because I just said that, but that I'm sorry, but that is the absolute
It's
truth
the
of the
free
world
speech.
in which we live.
Well, one of the things that so after school did a great image of some of your work, and it's about this kind of perception. It's got two people either side of a world, right? And they're viewing one person's viewing the world with it sees it as a garden, the other one person sees it as hell, right? And I think it's a real viral image that's really simplifies this exactly what you're saying. And it's incredible, isn't it, when you start thinking about the power that we have within us to then either create heaven on earth or hell on earth, as long as we realize that we have. I think one of the powerful takeaways I got from you last year is that we are responsible for everything in our life once we realize we are responsible for everything in our lives. And then being able to see that image, it goes, oh, it's not a heaven or a hell. It's whatever I see it as. The world is as I am, not as I see it. And I'd love to talk more about your work, specifically put front and center the honeymoon effect. I'm going to be coming to see you in June in London. It's going to be great to have you come across to London. Bruce, can we get a hug? Like, I'm a hugger. Like, can we?
I am so anxious to be with you because I want to say how much I really appreciate your effort to go out and inform the public,
Oh, thank you,
because
brother.
knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Disinformation is disempowerment. That's a
Right.
simple fact. And what we need are more people like you that says, look, let's just face what we have to deal with here, because are you afraid of your advertiser dropping out? You know, that TV show. The simple, basic, simple reality. If there's a TV show and there's an advertiser selling a product, do you think in that TV show they're going to negate the product and say, "Oh, that product is stupid and dumb, and we don't like this product"? I go, absolutely not. The product is feeding them the money to be there, so you don't kick the person who's giving you the money.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I
yeah.
go and I had this video compilation. It was really great during the COVID period. Every major news broadcast, at the end of the broadcast, this show sponsored by Pfizer. I go, they sponsored every news broadcast. I said, well, what do you think the result is? The broadcast is going to say, hey, don't do Pfizer. Why? They're giving me the money.
Yeah.
Okay. They were paid to support the system, because you cannot talk against your source of money,
Mm.
because then you won't have a source of money.
Mm. Right. Let's encourage more people to create heaven on earth. What is heaven on earth, Bruce? Why do you believe it's possible? Like, where do we start creating more heaven on earth?
Well, I want people to believe in heaven on earth for 1 second. So I'm going to give them this offer to say, go back in your lifetime. I say, I think almost everyone out here hopefully is old enough to have fallen in love at least once. I say, so what? I say, well, look at your life. It was like blah, 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 blah. Then you meet somebody, 24 hours later, you're in a state of love. I said, well, what does that say? Well, some people call it the honeymoon. I said, what's the honeymoon? Everything's beautiful. Life is beautiful. The food's great. The music's great. Even the job that was really sucky, that's even better. Why? I'm coming from love.
Yeah.
And I go, this is called the honeymoon. It's a radical change in 24 hours from before you met this person to after you met this person. So I sat there and I said, well, what happened to take you from blah, blah, blah to heaven on earth? And the answer is science has recognized we stop thinking. I go, what the hell does that mean? I say, we stay what is called mindful. We stay what is called present. I say, what does that mean? I say, when you're thinking, your awareness is going inside. A thought is inside, you know? So I say, hey, Ryan, today is Wednesday. Tell me what you're doing on Friday. Now, it's not written in front of Ryan right now. I'm not going to ask him to tell me, but I know within a minute or 30 or 40 seconds, Ryan will say, oh, on Friday, I'm going to do this. I said, where did you get the answer? I thought about it. I said, where was the thought? Not outside. The thought was inside. So I say, so what happens when you're thinking? You're not paying attention to the world. I go, what do you mean? Because your thoughts inside, whatever, if you're driving the car and all of a sudden you start thinking, well, when I got to the store, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I go, during that moment, you don't realize, you know what? You were not looking out the windshield of the car,
Yeah.
because your conscious mind was looking for a list or whatever the hell I'm doing. I said, but who's driving the car? I go, the subconscious is a hard drive and it's got programs in it.
Mm.
And you don't, all you have to do is push the button, the program plays automatically. It knows how to do stuff. I'll give you a great example, because when did most people learn how to walk? I said, before they were two. I said, you still walking? I go, yeah, you know what? It's a habit. You don't have to
Yeah,
think
yeah,
about
yeah.
right foot, left foot, right foot. I go, you want to walk? You don't even have to say I'm going to walk. I say, I'm going over there. I'm going to get that. It's over there. What does it mean? Implies I'm going to walk. Did you
Mm.
even think about how to walk? I said, no. Why? It's automatic program. You know what? Once you know how to drive, do you think you need to think about all the driving? I say, look, you stopped doing that long time ago.
Yeah.
You stop looking, with all that consciousness out the window and the mirrors and what the engine sounds like and what your feet are doing. I said, once you learn how to drive, you don't think about that. You're thinking about when I get to the store, I'm going to buy this. I go, oh, well, then you're not paying attention.
Mhm.
Simple point. When the conscious mind is thinking, whatever chores are necessary, driving the car, walking, talking, things, whatever you know how to do, which is a program, the subconscious mind takes over. I go, why? Because if I'm thinking about what I'm going to get at the store and I'm not looking at the road, I could be in a lot of trouble at this point. But the subconscious, a million times more powerful a computer than the conscious mind, takes over the driving. Let's say Ryan's in the car with me and we're driving and we get in a conversation, which I love to do with Ryan, and blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden I look out the window and I sure as hell not going to tell Ryan this, but I look out the window and my mind goes, oh my God, you haven't paid attention to the road. You haven't paid attention to the road. You've been talking to Ryan.
Yeah.
But I'm still on the road and I'm driving safe, peaceful, everything. I go, wow. And I look at the road and I go, wow. Now here comes the questions. The two questions that make the whole world. I say, what's the question? Question number one, what were you and Ryan talking about? Oh, man, we talked about this. Question number two, what was on the road when you were talking to
Mm.
Ryan?
Mm.
I don't know.
Mm.
I didn't see it.
Mm.
I go, what was the point? When your conscious mind is tied up and focused, the subconscious mind takes over the conventional things, walking, talking, driving. Okay.
Yeah.
Now the question that was so important was, well, what was on the road? And I said, I have no idea. I go, so why is it important? When you're thinking, you're not paying attention to what's going on. You don't see it.
Mm.
And I say, yeah, but your behavior is coming from a program. And I said, do you see the driving skill you just did? I said, no, I didn't see anything. I didn't even know anything. I just know, hey, I'm at the exit. How did I get there? I go, so why is this important? This is so fundamentally important. And the point is this, when my conscious mind is engaged thinking, or specifically like focus on like talking to you, it's not paying attention to my behavior
Mm.
because it's playing automatically. And I go,
Mm.
well, what's the point? Well, I don't see the behavior. I go, so here's the issue. 60% or more of the programs in your automatic subconscious programming, 60% or more are disempowering, self-sabotaging, and limiting behaviors. And I'll give you an example because personally, I know exactly why. I say, look, first 7 years programming, Ryan's working with his kids. That's the story. I go back and say, where was I when I was under 7? I was in my home with my mother and father. And I go, so what? I say, children are programmed to observe the behavior of the mother, the father, the family, and the community. I say, why? How many rules do you need to know to be a functional member of a family? You can't just do whatever the hell you want. No, put your pants back up. You can't do that out here. I go, well, rules? I go, yeah. How'd you learn the rules as an infant? Did you go to school? No, you were too young to go to school. You can't read the book. I go, so how did you learn? Nature, as we just were intimating,
Mm.
the first 7 years of your life, your brain is functioning at a vibrational energy when, like the wires on your head, EEG, read vibration. First 7 years, you're not at the vibration of consciousness as a predominant activity. In fact, you're at a lower vibration called theta, which is imagination. And that's why the kids have the famous tea party, pour nothing into the cup, drink nothing. That was the best tea. That was the best tea I ever had. I'm riding a broom, and the mother says, give me the broom. And the kid's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Why? Because it's not a broom.
Mm.
In theta, it's the horse, imagination.
Yeah.
And theta is hypnosis. So I said, nature resolved how culture can propagate itself because the baby growing up for the first 7 years is recording in a state of hypnosis behavior by observing those around them. As a child, the first people I use as downloading are my mother and my father.
Mm.
My mother and father had a dysfunctional relationship. So when I'm under 7, I'm watching my father because that's how I learned my programming when I grow up as this boy. I'm going to grow up and do like that. And what am I downloading? Dysfunctional behavior of relationship. Okay. It's a download. It's in my subconscious. It's a program. Okay. 40 plus years of my life, I could not find a relationship.
Mm.
I go, why? And the answer was, I didn't observe that when I was thinking, the behavior that was coming out wasn't me. It was
Yeah.
my father and dysfunctional behavior. And so every relationship I tried to get into, my unawareness, because I was thinking and didn't see the behavior coming from my father play right out, I didn't see that. All I saw was my potential partners are not there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when I became aware of, oh my God, we play subconscious behaviors. And here's the number. If you got to know the number, because you got to, how much of the day is your subconscious running a show, and how much of the day is your conscious? I say, what's the difference? Conscious is you, your personal identity, your spirit. Conscious is creative. Conscious mind's creative,
Mm.
imagination, creativity. Subconscious mind, hard drive, data, program. No creativity, program. So I go, so what? 95% of the day, the average person is thinking. That's scientific. I go, so why is that important? Because in 95% of the day, your life is not coming from your wishes and your desires. 95% of the day, you are generating your life based on the programs that are playing. Yeah, but that's where the problem comes from. Because when you're thinking, you're the one that doesn't see the program. Everybody else sees it. If it's a good program, great. Their responses to you are going to be very positive. But what if you play a crap program? What if I play my father's relationship programming? The recipient of hearing my program is going to go, I don't want to be here for that. Okay.
Right.
Did I hear my program? No, it's like I didn't see the road when I was talking with Ryan in the car. I didn't see the program. You didn't see the program. Why? Because if your conscious mind is looking inside, it's not paying attention to what's coming on the outside.
Mm.
I don't know if I used it last time when we talked, but it's the same story that I've repeated for 40 years. So let's do it again.
Yeah.
I go, what is it? You have a friend. You know your friend's behavior very well because he's your friend. And you happen to know your friend's parent. And one day you see your friend has the same behavior as the parent, and you just got to say it. You go, hey, Bill, you're just like your dad. Back away from Bill. Back away. You
Yeah,
already
yeah,
know.
yeah.
What's the I can tell you what the response was right now. I know what Bill's gonna say. You know what he's gonna say? How can you compare me to my dad? I'm nothing like my dad.
Right.
And I laugh because guess what? Everybody else sees Bill behaves like his dad. Who doesn't see it? Bill. Why? Because he's playing that program when he's not paying attention. So he's the only one that doesn't see it.
Mm.
Now I love it because here's the conclusion. We are all Bill.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
one of us is doing this. And when this comes into relationship, I go, what's the issue? Well, if I'm having a relationship with somebody and then I bring up my father's program without me seeing it and I'm playing it, my partner sees it. And my partner, I love the phrase, goes, who are you? Where did that come from?
Mm.
And then they're looking at me and I'm thinking, what the hell are you talking about? Why? I didn't see the behavior I just did. My partner saw the behavior I did. I didn't see it. Well,
Yeah.
what does that lead to? An argument. I didn't mean that. I didn't say that. Blah, 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 blah. And I go, hey, that's the beginning of when the honeymoon goes to hell. Argument. Okay.
Yeah.
I said, what happened in my life? And the answer was this. I learned about this invisible programming that I was generating.
Mm.
And then with conscious awareness, which I didn't have,
Yeah.
I started to see my own behavior and go, wait a second, I can't do this anymore. I rewrote the program.
Yeah.
And I said, so what was the result? Instead of having behavior that was sabotaging me, I put in behavior that represented what I wanted, my
Mm.
wishes and desires. So while I'm thinking and I'm not even paying attention, my program is seeking wishes and desires. And when I'm conscious and not thinking, I'm thinking wishes and desires. So what's the result? I've been on a honeymoon with my partner 28 years every
Mm.
day, 28 years in a row. I go, why? Because that invisible behavior coming out 95% of the time is now a behavior that supports and enhances the
Mm.
concept of living in heaven on earth and having a wonderful life. And I have it.
Mm.
I have it. Was it an accident? No. We're
Yeah.
all creators. You're creating. That is quantum physics. Day one. What do you mean? 1927 was the introduction of quantum physics. 1927, Max Planck, father of quantum physics, day one said, the mind is the creator of our life experiences. I go, 1927 is all 100 years ago. I go, guess what? Today, the mind is the creator of our life experiences because it's the valid understanding of quantum physics, and quantum physics is the most valid science. So it says, well, where's your mind? Why? Well, let's go back very quickly. Mind, picture, brain, translate to chemistry, chemistry into blood, blood then activates the genes. It was from day one. But now we know the science that we didn't know before. It's called epigenetics. I
Mm.
go, they were saying the mind creates all this. Epigenetics is the mechanism by which the mind is creating this in a biological world. It's all valid. It's all very truthful. And I love it because a lot of religious people, I challenge that a bit. I'm a spiritual person, not necessarily a religious person. To me, religion is like business of spirit. So I'm not really caring about the business
With you.
part. I want to live spiritually. Okay. And it's just so beautiful because we were given some advice for those people who are so religious and so spiritual. Let me offer you something and ask you about it. And that is this: Jesus has been quoted as saying, you can do all the miracles that I can do and even better than I can do it. Now I'm challenging you.
Yes.
Well, if you're so damn religious, why aren't you creating the miracles? Why aren't you creating better than the miracles? You were told you could do it. That's your religion. Then tell me why you're not
Yeah.
doing it. And
Well,
the answer,
because the religion has put the character of Jesus as an idol, which is the very irony of the downfall of what I'm a follower of Jesus. Jesus is my king, but too much of the business of spirit is putting him as an idol. Therefore, separate from that, not failing to recognize that he's coming and saying, "I and the Father are one." And spoiler alert, so are we. So are we. We are of that.
but well, I have to, question you guys because over in Britain land, there's a fight between Catholics and Protestants. I go, excuse me, aren't you both
Right.
representing Jesus? Well, if you are, isn't the same Jesus the one that says be in peace, be in love, support people? Don't I say, well, then how the hell can you fight each other if you're supposed to be so Christian?
Right,
I
right,
go,
right, right. Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
now it's politics. It's not spirituality anymore.
100%. Oh, it's crazy. My wife and I have been together since 15. So we've been together over 20 years, man and boy. And, we got to a point where we were doing the kind of things, get the job, we go to university, get the job, we got engaged, then married, and then children. And then somewhere along the way, life became so busy that we were just playing out our programs to each other. We were just causing each other suffering, shall we say. And we had a point where it was we go our separate ways or we sort it out, right? And that was a real a moment in our relationship where we had to play out some of this stuff consciously. We had to sit down and figure out what's going on. And it wasn't until like we sat down and go, well, what did our parents teach us about love? That we realized that we had this epiphany. Like my mum was a single parent. She role modeled love by being optimistic, working 3 or 4 jobs, never complaining, happy go lucky, just figuring it out. My wife was effectively a single child. Dad would do anything and everything for her. So love looked like, I'll do anything and everything for you. So you put those two together, you've got this like guy who's like thinks the most loving thing I can do is to encourage you to do it yourself because you're an independent human being, like my mum was. And she's like, well, why wouldn't you do it for me, my dad? Like, and then we were just unloving each other in ways that we needed because we didn't even understand the programs that we had carried with us into our marriage.
But that was the whole point. You can't see the program, but your partner can see the program. And I say, when did they see it? And I say, not during the honeymoon. Why?
Right.
Because during the honeymoon, you're not playing the programs. You stay conscious, which means you're not defaulting to the program. So I say, well, when you're conscious, then you're doing what? Well, the conscious mind's creative, wishes and desires. They go, so what the hell do you want when you're conscious? I go, love, happiness, health, vitality. Oh, I love that. I go, yeah, well, that's called the honeymoon. I said, then why do 50% of marriages end up in divorce? And the answer is because at some point, when the partner starts to think, the behavior is not coming from their creative wishes, conscious mind, it's coming from their program. And that's when I said, well, most of those programs are dysfunctional. And I go, but the person who just set the program, they're the one that didn't see it. It's only the recipient that watches it goes, what? And the idea about it, there's no communication at this level. The observer sees the behavior. The one who's generating behavior doesn't see the behavior. Okay. And so the issue is that's when the honeymoon starts to end, is when one of those behaviors sneaks through with the filter and starts playing. And then the partner goes, I didn't sign up for this. And then another one, and then another one. And at some point, okay, that's too many negative things, and game over, relationship over. Okay. And people don't do what you do. What you did with your wife is review and try to figure out, let's analyze, because analysis goes away because arguments don't give a damn about analysis, and arguments go on, and then you resolve arguments by coming together or leaving, which most unfortunately is leaving.
Yeah.
But did anybody analyze why? And I go, no, they just responded to the anger of the behavior without analyzing who came with that behavior, where did it come from, why is it here? And until you understand that, hey, life is a mystery. I go, it's no longer a mystery.
Yeah.
You are a creator. The journal Nature, I just want to bring this up because journal Nature from England is the most prestigious scientific journal on the planet. And I cited an article from a physicist from a big university in the States, Johns Hopkins University, Richard Conn Henry, physicist. The article was called The Mental Universe. And I tell people about the article. I say, but don't read the article. You don't have to, because it's all in the last sentence. I go, what's the last sentence? Quote, and this is exactly what it says. The universe is immaterial. Well, let me explain that.
Yeah.
Quantum physics recognizes that atoms are not made out of physical particles. Atoms are made out of energy, like tornadoes, nano tornadoes, or vortexes of energy, okay? Vortices. And I go, so why is this part important? I say, because when you look at reality as atoms or physical things, I say that's an illusion. Atoms are not physical things, they're energy. So matter is immaterial, according to physics, okay? Quantum physics. I say, so let me finish the quote. The universe is immaterial. It's mental and spiritual. Live and enjoy. I go, oh my God, I've been in science my whole life. And until I read that, we were never allowed as scientists to invoke consciousness and spirituality into our biological understanding. It's never been part. Medicine disregarded the mind, who was a troublemaker. Ignore the mind, focus on the body. But now in quantum physics, it comes the other way around. It says, pay attention to the mind because its chemistry is going to affect everything in your body. You want to change your health? Don't change your body, change your consciousness. And all of a sudden I go, well, but that means you're not going to buy the pharmaceutical agent. I go, well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. I go, oh, here we go, get canceled again. But I don't care. I'll tell you why. Let's be realistic. And I'm going to give, here's a realistic. If a drug works, this is a fact. If a drug works, inside your body, cells have something called a receiver, that will recognize that drug. Okay? If there's no receptor, the drug won't bind to anything and it has no effect. So by definition, a drug works because there's a receptor that will recognize the drug. And I go, well, wait, the receptor was there before you took the drug. I go, oh, do you think nature put receptors on there waiting for the pharmaceutical company to find something to stick in that receptor? No, man. If you have a receptor for a drug, the biology behind it is you already make a signal that attaches to that receptor. Okay? So that any drug you take, it affects you, is because naturally you have an ability to make that drug. Okay? So the question is, why aren't you making the drug? Well, the conventional story is, well, you're a genetic machine, your genes aren't working right, and therefore you're a victim of the genetic failure. And I go, BS. No, it's
Yeah.
based on what? Your consciousness is controlling the release of that chemistry.
Mm.
You change your consciousness and you can release any of the signals that drugs represent. I don't need to buy the damn drug. I make that drug. So the question is, why am I not making it? And the immediate thing is, oh, the genes are screwed up. I go, nah. Fact of science, fact, less than 1% of disease is connected to genes. Less than 1%. So all of a sudden it says, don't give me the gene story. That's, again, that's propaganda BS. Genes do not activate themselves. Genes do not control this. And your consciousness can alter the readout of a gene. It doesn't just read the blueprint, it can modify the blueprint. So I say, the gene is a blueprint to make a protein. I go, yes. But how you respond to life, I can change the readout of the blueprint to make 3,000 different proteins. And all of a sudden it says, well, then I'm not regulated by the gene. I go, you never were. You're the creator of your gene activity because epigenetics, the new science, epi above, epigenetics above the genes is the control. And all of a sudden it says, no, no, you're not a victim of your genetics. You're the one that controls your genetics. But you've never been programmed to buy that. You've never been programmed that somebody says, you know, your mind is doing this. How about instead of taking the pharmaceutical drug, let's work with the consciousness of this. Let's work with your heart. And to me, this is why it was so important when I was going over your work, Ryan, and that is, I know from personal experiences in conferences that I belong to and stuff like that, that 80 to 90% of all people will not test positive for I love myself. 80 to 90% will not buy that they love themselves. I go, what? Because they were criticized as kids. The criticisms were downloaded. And so the personal mind reviews the criticism and becomes self-critical, not lovable, not deserving, not good, blah, blah, blah. These are things we downloaded in the first 7 years. And then these become the reference in your consciousness. I'm not lovable. I go, if you're not lovable, you want me to give you the, and Ryan knows, I'll tell you what the significance is. If you can't love yourself, fact, no one else can love you. I say, why? Well, someone says, Bruce, I love you, and I don't love myself. And I look at them, I go, well, you have no quality control because obviously I'm very clearly not lovable. How could you say you love me? And then you'll push them away. And then guess what? You'll have the famous conclusion. You see, I'm not lovable. There's nobody here. I go, they were here. You pushed them away. And all of a sudden, oh, you mean I was responsible? Well, damn it, that's what Ryan was trying to tell us and emphasize. We're not passive victims. We're creators. Quantum physics, most valid science. That's principle number one. Epigenetics, the new biology. Principle number one. The mind's creating all this. When are you going to own it? And the answer is, well, once you stop buying the propaganda. And I said, what's propaganda? I say advertising, watching on TV. In the US, they bypassed the doctor. I go, what do you mean?
Yeah.
They put the drug ads on the TV so that the pedestrian who doesn't know squat says, "Ooh, I love that drug. See how happy the people are? That's a great drug. I want that one." They go to the doctor. They don't say, "Doctor, tell me what I need." They say, "Doctor, I want this one." And and the joke, I remember Bill Maher, the comedian, who brought all this up. It says, "Well, then what does that mean? Your doctor's a drug dealer." You went and bought the drug that you wanted because you saw it on TV. And it's like, what's the role of the doctor? Sign the prescription and give you the drug. You know, and it's unfortunate because we're facing a fact that was published not just in the Journal of the American Medical Association, the Journal of the Medical Profession, but also in the British Medical Journal, BMJ, the same thing. JAMA, Journal of American Medical People, published it in 2000. British Medical Journal published it in 2016. Same result. What is it? Medicine is the third leading cause of death in the United States. Oh, come on. I go,
Yeah.
first leading cause of death, cardiovascular disease. Second leading cause of death, cancer. Third leading cause of death, iatrogenic illness. Iatrogenic? What the hell is iatrogenic illness? It's Latin. I said, you want me English interpretation? Iatrogenic illness is illness as a result of medical treatment.
Mm.
Even the medical profession has been telling you we are the third leading cause of death. I go, does anybody want to pay attention to that?
Right.
They're telling you, I'm not saying medicine is the third leading cause of death because Bruce is interested in saying that. I'm saying that because JAMA said that. BMJ said that. This is science. I'm just reporting what they said.
One of the things that you, excuse me, one of the things you said a minute ago, I really want to pay attention to is this: I don't, test positive if I love myself, and that is a inherent identity. I think there was something really powerful. I heard one of you talking before about how when you were going to this conference, you were a new agey type conference, really in the early days, and talk about this, and you were drawn out of this. You speaking as if you were this new agey guy, and you're just like, sod that, I'm just gonna be Bruce. Let me Bruce. And there's something about your frequency that just changed. But I don't think many people get to experience that true frequency of who they really are. They're so programmed with this, who the world has told them to be, that even those voices that do uplift and empower and encourage, they don't get through because this internal program says you're not that, you're not that. The
who do you think you are? I love that. The pre-age 7. Who do you think you are?
Yeah,
nobody. Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now you accept it. I'm nobody. I go, well, too bad. That was a bad program.
I think the world is giving us this programming of lack, inadequacy, competition. I think it's given us separation. All of the things that maybe the quantum spiritual world is inviting us to actually look at, and maybe that there is no separation. Maybe there is wholeness and oneness and collaboration. There is no need. There is only abundance.
Not maybe. I'm sorry, Ryan. There is. It's not a maybe. Yep. There is no separation. And I said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, let's just go back to physics. I go, what is it? An atom is made out of energy, a vibration, ripples on a pond. I go, yeah, when a raindrop hits the water, the ripples that come from that is an expression of energy that the raindrop added to the water. It's energy is the force. You don't see the energy, but you see the force is shaping into ripples. So energy in waves. And then I use in my lecture, I show them a pond during a rainstorm. And all the ripples from each drop are coming around. I say, show me a place in the pond where there are ripples from one raindrop that are not touching or interacting with the ripples from the other raindrops. I said, nowhere in the pond is there an isolated ripple. I say, why is this important? You are generating ripples because you're an energy being. I say, can you separate from everything? And I say, you never can separate from everything in this universe. You're connected to everything. Why? Energy has no border. The energy stopped here. There's no stopping. This keeps going. And so the point about it is we are, the word in science, entangled, as are the ripples in the pond. All the raindrops, their ripples are all connected, entangled. And all of a sudden it says, can I extract myself from this world? I say, you cannot do that. You are an integral energy element, and you are connected to everything. And when you understand that, it makes a whole different picture than I'm an isolated person in the world. Oh, I'm all isolated. You've never been isolated. Isolation is a program.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, it's like, what is the consequence of this new knowledge, this new biology?
Yes.
The answer is, yeah, folks, you saw I couldn't get a relationship off the ground for 40 plus years because of my father's programming. I changed the programming. I have now been living, and I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it. Well, we just celebrated, Margaret and I, 2 days ago, or 4 days ago, 28 years of being not just married, but being in love and waking up in a world of our creation as partners. That's what love is all about, partnership. It starts with individuals coming together with other individuals as close partnerships, but it expands to the word community. The evolution that we're facing right now is the evolution of community, because we have been programmed in the past that everything is based on competition. Well, competition is my community against your community, myself against yourself. I go, this is Darwinian. And I'm really sorry, English people.
Yeah.
Darwin was wrong,
Yeah.
and Darwin has created the competition that we live by as a way of life, when the new science says, no, we live in a garden. I said, what does that mean? I said, a garden is the height of cooperation.
Yes.
A garden, everything in the garden is entangled to create the garden. Cooperation. I say, how are we doing? I say, we are destroying the garden because we've been living in competition to extract as much as we can and take it home and pile it up. I always love it because we bought into a world of material. I said, what does it represent? Just stop for a second. It's an expression of your standing in the world. What does it mean? Well, you have no material, you're at the bottom of the pile somewhere. You have a lot of material, you're at the top of the pile. We have so much damn material trying to get on the top of the pile. I love this. Just stop for a second and recognize one of the biggest, newest kind of corporate things are what? Storage facilities. To do what? Store my excess property. I go, excess property? You can't, you have to go find a place to dump it because you can't hold on to it that much. I go, do you not understand? Where the hell did all that material come from?
Yeah.
Oh, from the planet. You took it out of the planet. Now you put it in a storeroom. I go, you've been taking from the garden and not putting anything back in the garden.
Well, and see how much of that you can take with you in the next realm.
All you can take with, and it's true, is the memory of it. But you can't take any of the physical part. Well, there is no physical part, but you can sure as hell take a memory of this. And there's so much information now that shows that, yeah, spirituality and survival after death is actually becoming recognized to be real, because there are communications when people have near-death experiences or other forms of disconnecting from your conscious mind using hallucinogenic drugs. I go, what? It separates your consciousness from your physicality. And all of a sudden you're out there, and I go, where are you? And all of a sudden you go, well, I'm not in my body, I'm over here. I go, yeah, guess what? You never were in your body, because your spirit, an energy field, ripples, is picked up by antennas, receptors on the surface of your cells. And then the beautiful part about that is no two people receive the same personal broadcast. They're called self receptors. This is why I can't put my liver into Ryan. I can't have his kidney into my body, because when we transplant an organ, the recipient's immune system goes, that's not self. And the immune system destroys it. So in my research, of course, is, well, the immune system sees physical things. So what the hell is the immune system looking at when it says self versus not self? Oh, a set of proteins on the surface of the cell, receptors, antennas. They're called self receptors. No two people have the same set. In fact, when they want to transplant an organ from person A to person B, they don't just pick anybody and throw the organ in there. They look at the combination of the self receptors like a combination lock. It's not one receptor, it's a bunch. I say, so what's the point? Well, here are the receptors on the donor. Here are the receptors on the recipient. If you can get any overlap of these receptors, that will determine who's going to get the organ. They don't just put the organ. Somebody find out who can have a close overlap. That is then determining. So I say, so what was the point? Well, the receptors make the difference. In our conventional world, they say, oh, it's the physical proteins that make the difference. I get, you've failed to understand, what does the word receptor mean? Receiver. So it's not the proteins, it's the signal they're receiving that makes you different from everybody else. And I go, yeah, but what does that mean? The
Yeah.
receiving signal that you're getting is not in the cell because the receptors are on the outside
Yeah.
looking for an environmental signal of self. I go, oh my God, quantum physics. What does it say? Each of us is receiving an energy vibration unique to you and no other person on the planet. And I go, so why is it relevant? And it comes down to the simplest understanding. I go, what is it? The body is a television set.
Yeah.
The broadcast, the spirit, is the program. You're looking at the Bruce show through the Bruce television right now.
Yeah.
And I go, well, when you're watching a TV and it breaks, what do we say about that TV? Oh, the TV is dead. I go,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not working anymore. Did the broadcast die when the TV broke? Why? The broadcast is not in the TV. I go, so why is that significant? Your identity is not the body. Your identity is the broadcast.
Mm.
I said, well, if I die, my body's gone. There's no receiver of the broadcast. I go, nope. But what about if an embryo shows up with the same set of receptors, self receptors I have right now? An embryo shows up with the same set. I go, well, I'm back, but in a different TV. I go, well, does it make a difference if the TV's male or female? I go, no, that's the TV. That's not the broadcast. Doesn't make a difference if it's white, brown, black, red, yellow. No, no, that's the TV.
Yeah.
We are the broadcast. And I go, so what hit me at that moment of awareness of molecular biology, immunology, and all this came together. And I said, oh my God, I can't die. I'm
Yeah.
not
Come
even
on.
in here. We're not in here. And I love it because the joke to me was, I'm a scientist. I didn't believe in spirituality. Zero. Genes, DNA, proteins. Yeah, I got that. And when I saw the mechanism, it was like, oh my God, I'm not, my body is not me. It's the broadcast that's me.
Mm.
And then in that instant, how long did it take me to go from not spiritual to fully spiritual?
Yeah. Yeah.
A
Yeah.
minute, 45 seconds. Why? There was a mechanism. It was very
Yeah.
clear. I can't argue with the mechanism. And I became very spiritual. But then I love it because here's the joke part. I just, boom. Oh my God, I'm immortal. Why? The broadcast always here. And then my brain goes, well, then why have a body? Why not
Yeah.
just be the spirit?
Yeah.
And this is what I found out. I always laugh because I found out, oh, I have Jewish comedian cells. I go, what do you mean? Well, the joke is Jewish comedians, you ask them a question, they answer with a question. I asked, why have both a body and a spirit? Why not just be a spirit? My cells welled up with an answer. It came up from my body.
Yeah.
And here's what I heard. You ready?
I'm ready.
Bruce, if you're just a spirit, what does chocolate taste like?
Come on. Yeah.
Now, you have to take that one and think about that for a little bit. And I go, why? Chocolate is a manifestation of my body cells taking in the chemistry of chocolate, my nervous system translating the taste of chocolate into vibration, because that's what the brain reads. It doesn't taste chocolate, it reads the vibration of chocolate. I go, so what? My body is enhancing the receptivity of my spirit. I came here to have experiences. Yeah.
Yeah.
What does
Yeah. Yeah.
chocolate taste like? What does love feel like? What is happy? I can, oh, happy. Let's write a definition. I could give you a definition out of the dictionary and go, so what? If
Yeah.
you can't experience it and tell me that was a feeling, yeah, happy is a feeling. Joy, sadness, love. The body is manifesting those by taking the cells of the body, the receptors, responding to the signals, sending it to the brain, and converting it into a broadcast. I say, remember I said put wires on your head, I read your brain
Yeah.
activity?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The newer device, magnetoencephalograph, reads brain activity, but the probe is out here reading brain activity.
Yeah.
Stop. What do you mean? What does that one fact mean? I'm
Yeah.
reading brain activity out here. You ready? You're broadcasting your consciousness. It's not in your head.
Yeah.
It's a podcast. I said, where's it
Well,
going? Back to source. It goes back to source. My life experiences are translated into energy by my body, and my source is energy, which then harmonizes with that.
mm,
So then I got to that point and I said,
mm,
well, wait, I can't die. I'm the broadcast. And then I said, then why am I here? I said, because I can experience. I can experience what chocolate is. I can experience what love is. I can experience what fear is. I can experience this. Why? Because this mechanism is a translator. It's a virtual reality suit. I get into the suit. I can see. I can smell. I can taste. So I go, oh, wow. We came here for this sensory experience of life. What does love feel like? I can write the definition of love. It has no sense of feeling in it, but feeling is what love was all about. Okay. So now I accept this moment. I'm immortal. I came here to have these experiences. And then I added one more thing. I said, what? I didn't just come here, but I am creating my life. I am generating behavior that I am creating what I want here or not creating what I want. And I all of a sudden I say that, uh-oh. And this is the big conclusion, Ryan. And for a guy who wasn't spiritual, this is like, okay, what is it? I
yeah.
say, people think, because we've been programmed to believe it, that if you have a really good life and you live so morally and so correctly,
Yeah.
when you die, you get a chance to go to heaven. I say,
Yes.
what
Good.
is heaven?
Good boy.
Well, ask 10 people. I'm going to get 10 different definitions. I said, but all of them are this based on the perception of that person, what their vision of heaven is.
Yes.
And I go, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You don't die and go to heaven. You
Mm,
were born into heaven.
mm,
You came here to create. Well, guess what? You can create hell just as easily as you can create heaven.
mm.
But if you own you're the creator and you own who you are, own how it works, then you are empowered to say, I don't want hell. I want heaven. I go, well, that's your choice. You're the creator. So don't wait till you die, because when you die, somebody up there in St. Peter's Gate say, well, how was your trip to heaven? What do you mean? Oh, you were on earth. Oh, that is heaven, that's where you came to create.
Oh, the punchline.
Oh,
Whoops.
whoopsie.
Whoops.
I go, I'm not leaving here. I want to be here as long as I can. Why?
Yeah.
Life is no longer the victim of programs that have disempowered me and made me a recipient of my own bad behavior.
Yeah.
I am now the creator,
Yeah.
and I live in heaven every day. Does
Yeah.
it mean everything works the way I want it? I go, no. But you know what's cool? If it doesn't work, it usually means there was another way to get there and I just didn't see it. And the universe was saying, try a different approach. That
Yeah.
was what it was saying.
Well, even Jesus was saying the kingdom of God is within. The kingdom is within, and I think how many of us do not take that as literal as we should do?
Well, that's the problem. It's the translation that other people put on top of what he said without you getting a chance to say, but maybe he didn't say it that way.
Right.
Maybe he meant it in a different way. And
Yes.
that what he really knew was there's two parts to us, the creative conscious part, which is the manifester, and the subconscious, which is the program manifester. I'm not a religious guy, spirit guy, okay? But Jesus did say some really good things, before we close, I would like to offer this. One of the most important things he said was on the day he was crucified. Matter of fact, might have been one of the last things he said. I said, what was it? He said, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. And I go, oh my Jesus. I go, what? I go, this is the world we're in. You
Right.
have your behavior, it's programmed. You don't see it. You have no idea what you're doing. Forgive them because their program sucks, but
Yeah.
their spirit is good.
Yeah.
But they're not operating from their spirit, they're operating from their program. Should I hate somebody because their program sucks? I go, well, spiritually, no,
Yeah.
because they didn't want that. They just got programmed to be that. So I can forgive them. But does that mean I have to be nice and have them over my house? I go, no, bullshit, BS, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I, 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 I know who they are. I forgive you, but I'm not playing with you. You
Yeah, so
know?
I think the work of David Hawkins, I think he says that the greatest sin is ignorance. It is simply that, because if we knew, we would do, like, we would have a new, font of being. Bruce, I want to just take a moment just to be super thankful, super grateful for your wisdom, for your energy. Like, I could just, you're one of these people I feel blessed to have had a conversation with. Like, I've been doing this podcast, and if I reflect back on the end of my time of doing this podcast, like, these conversations are some of my absolute favorite. They're a real gem. And yeah, I look forward to meeting you in person, like giving you a big hug, man. I can't wait for that. Is there
It's not that far from now, June 22nd. So
June 22nd? Is there anything specifically you want to say about the June 22nd in London, the honeymoon effect?
the honeymoon effect is basically saying the honeymoon effect is if you've experienced it, you knew how great it was. And then my understanding, which I'll offer in the lectures, why can't you have that every day for the rest of your life? Because you can, but you have to understand how it works because, being unaware of the mechanism is actually causing you a problem. Because if you knew how it worked, then you had power to do something about it. But if you are programmed to be a victim and then you walk around the world going, poor me, it's just not working. Oh, I'm so sorry, poor me. I go, you've been disempowered. Are you a powerful person? Well, let's go back to Jesus. Well, you can do everything I can do, even better than I can do it. Well, where is that? Well, it's in physics, it's in epigenetics, it's in biology. And when you understand how it works,
Yeah.
you will manifest exactly what Jesus was saying because he said, I'm doing what you do, and you don't know how to do it. And it's like, you can do it.
Well, and my marriage is testimony. I'm still happily married. I'm more happily married than I've ever been. In the 20 odd years we've been together, because we put consciousness and programming in the center of our conversation. We wouldn't still be
I
here.
love that. That's
Yeah.
like, okay, this is what the point is.
Yeah.
Are you and I unique and totally different than everyone? I go, no, we are the same people as everyone else.
Yeah.
They just didn't have knowledge. Knowledge is power. Let me put it in a more relatable term. Same thing. A lack of knowledge is a lack of power.
Yes.
What you don't know is disempowering.
Yes.
And what you've been misprogrammed to believe, meaning it's wrong, a misprogramming is disempowering.
Yes.
You're not a victim of your genes. You are indeed a spiritual creator and you are a manifester.
Mm.
Now, are you manifesting from wishes and desires, conscious mind? Or are you manifesting from your program, which is not what you want?
Mm.
Well, just look at your life. Ryan and I are very happy to acknowledge that we can change the way we are living,
Mm.
and then it changes our whole life experience. We came here to create heaven on earth. We have been programmed away from that.
Mm.
The program is incorrect. And that's why I love to offer. Let me give you the science of this. Not questionable. It's actual science. Is it in the newspaper? Nope. Why? Newspaper's selling you something, whoever paid
Yes.
for the ads in there. Uh, they don't want you to have freedom because if you have freedom, they can't control you.
Mm.
That's the game. Control. And if I go back so they can cancel me again, well, people talked about COVID and focus on the virus and the illness. They didn't focus on the consequence of COVID. And I said, what was the consequence? I'll give you very simply. You and I only have power in the world when we're in community.
Sure.
An individual has no power. A community makes decisions. Okay. Did you notice during COVID, there was no community anymore on the planet, except in Sweden, which didn't pay attention? All the other worlds did what? Stay away from each other. Put your mask on. Don't communicate. Keep a distance. I go, it was total disempowerment of human civilization because it was
Yeah.
now controlled by a handful of people. Just a handful of people determine the behavior of 99% of the people on this planet.
Well, I think what they did is they've taken that drive to survive, and they've manipulated and coerced that drive. because what it's done is it's overwritten our natural instincts to bond. And how dare they? How dare such a force, such an influence, a government who, and I love what you said recently about, the mind is almost like the government of our own individual community. And if it's not serving, change the mind, change the and I think there's a world you talk about where we have to reimagine what a government looks like for the betterment of an entire civilization and community.
Yeah, we're facing an upheaval right now because we are not sustainable. I go, what do you mean? Let's just give a simple, I love it. This math is simple. I go, what is it? If we want to just keep the world the way it is just today, just say, okay, look, just keep running just the way we're doing it today. It takes 1.6 planet Earths to provide the resources. So now look at the math. We have one planet Earth. Subtract that from 1.6, and they say, we're missing a 0.6 planet to get our resources. I go, so where are you getting the resources? You're removing it from the planet and destroying the planet to get that extra 0.6. It's not sustainable. We cannot do this anymore. Why? Nature is telling us, where the hell are you going to get all your resources from? You destroy the field. And it basically says, we're given notice by nature. As I said, even NASA scientists came up with a reality. What did they say? Within 20 years, the civilization facing an irreversible collapse. Why? Not sustainable. Is that a suggestion? No, it's a fact of science. So I say, so what can you do about it? I say, well, we got to change the way we're living. I say, but that's culture, that's civilization. I go, yes, that's where the problem comes from. So I say, well, how do you resolve it? And the resolve it is what? You cannot fix the current situation because its foundation is rotten. Yes. It's causing the problem. So I say, well, what are you going to, what logic? Just stop logically. I say, what can you do about it? I say, well, you can't continue supporting this civilization because this is civilization that's killing us. So what do you do? And I go, well, the futurist Buckminster Fuller told us exactly what to do. He said, don't go in there and fight the system. Go outside, build a better system, and the people will come to you. And this is what we're trying to do. And Ryan, you're a very important person in this creating a new system outside, because knowledge is power, and people have been disempowered by a lack of knowledge. And through your effort, and especially through your work with the heart, which is so underrated in regard to how powerful it is in our creation that we're manifesting, that I honor you as, a voice that we need to hear to help us go from there to the future. And so I want to thank you. I want to thank you for letting me talk to our wonderful audience, because our audience is there asking the same questions. What's going on? What can we do? And between your work and my work, I think we offer them some very powerful suggestions as, hey, take your power back because you are a creator.
Hey, my work is to platform your work, my friend. I think the more and more people that can just spend more time with you, they'll be blessed by it. Just like I feel like I've been. Bruce, I'm super grateful. I have a word here at Always Better Than Yesterday. It's called Heartprint. Yes. And the word symbolizes like the ripple effect. Like the pond you were talking about. It's this quantum ripple effect that maybe we might not see with our eyes. It's the new possibilities. The new thoughts, the new decisions that provide the seed for new possibilities. Bruce, I'd love for you to reflect on what you hope your heartprint will be.
Well, I'm happily where I am. I have to say, first 40 years of my life I was a great scientist to my perception. Well, I was a lousy partner to a life perception. And by following the science, it changed the whole course of my life. So I didn't change my life because, hey, that was a new age idea. That was no. I changed it because there was a science that said this, and I'm so honored to have been allowed to play in science, to see the world that people have never seen before. Every day when I went to work, I was using what's called the electron microscope. The electron microscope is not like the microscope you use in college or high school where you can see the cells. The electron microscope, you go into the cells.
Oh,
You
wow.
can see the mechanisms, the proteins, the structure, the anatomy inside the cell. And I said, I would see things when I go to work every day that no one in the world had ever seen before.
Yeah.
All right, talk about a job that was like, I couldn't wait to go to work. I'd have no idea what I was going to see today. And yet, what it really taught me was the universe is built on a geometry. Geometry is math of how you put structure into space. So nature is structure in space. The geometry that creates nature, like what you see back here, is not the geometry to create like the house over here, because our buildings and our structures are based on something called Euclidean geometry. Oh, yeah, you took that one, squares and cubes and circles and spheres and triangles and pyramids, all three-dimensional thingies. Okay. That geometry doesn't create nature. You can't, where's the squares and the triangles and all that stuff? It's not there. Nature is built on something called fractal geometry. People don't know what the hell that means. Fractional geometry. I go, what do you mean? Well, how many dimensions are there? Oh, three dimensions. That's us here in 3D space. Okay. Two dimensions, flat surface, like a plane. One dimension, a line. Zero dimension, point. So I say, oh, our geometry shows us 0, 1, 2, 3, and add time, 4 dimensions. And I go, well, what's really important about that is what about 1.5 dimensions? What the hell is 1.5 dimensions? Well, it's 2.5 dimensions. I go, there's something in between fractional dimensions. The geometry is called fractal. It's a simple geometry for this reason. There's a basic equation. You solve the equation, you get an answer. You take the answer, put it back into the equation, solve it again, get another answer. Take that answer, put it back into the equation, solve it again. I go, you're repeating the equation over and over again. I go, yeah, guess what? The structure of nature is repeated over and over again. As above, so below is, a new age mantra kind of thing or something. I go, no, no, it's actually the character of fractal geometry. And it says what? The structures in nature are repetitive. And if you can understand it at one level, you can use that information to understand it at the next level. I'm a cell biologist. I study cells, but guess what? If we want to understand how the human body works, you study the cell. Why? Because the function of the human body came from that cell. And if you understand how the cell works, and you also then understand, that's why we do cell biology, to understand how humans work. And so it says if you can understand any level in this hierarchy, then you can apply the same pattern to any other level. And this is where I was afforded the most wonderful insight and understanding about how life works, because I studied the cell. And it's very important. Scientists can look at something in either of two ways. One, I believe this and I want to show it to you through this research. Or what I did is I have no idea what's happening, but I'd like to see it.
Mm.
And then I didn't tell the cell what I was looking for. I was open for the cell to tell me what was
Yeah, yeah,
going
yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah,
And because of that, I saw the new biology 50 years ago
yeah. Mm.
because the cells revealed it. I'm just reporting from the cells revealing. And the biology has followed everything I've said for that point. And I go, and so have I. And I
Yeah.
say, why is that so have I? Because as you and I have experienced, we can change the way we live on this planet and change our behavior and start to model a different pattern and become a different person. And
Mm.
I love the person I am now. Ask me if I love myself. Yes, I do.
Yeah, love it.
I
Love it.
didn't. I didn't for many years
Yeah.
because my programming was self-critical, not
Yeah.
good enough, not smart enough, blah, 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 and like you, I had a chance to change these programs.
Mm.
And I say, so what was the result? I got two different lives in the same lifetime. First 40 years, hit my head against the wall. Second 40, which I'm in now, is, oh my God, I don't want to leave here. I just figured out how it works.
Yeah.
Now that I know how it works, I don't want to go because I'm manifesting an experience that when I die, I'll have to go, wow, man, that was great. I'd like to come. Can I come back and do it again?
I love it.
But I'd like to come back with the knowledge I have now because that would be a great start.
Well, and thank you for the stuff that you've put out into the world so that when you do come back, there will be these heartprints, these ripple effects, these actual things that you've put into the world, these communications, these frequencies, for you to learn that a lot quicker. Bruce, let's wrap it up there. I could talk to you all day, my good friend. Thank you so much for your gift that you are and all that you bring into the world, my brother.
I am a happy guy, and we'll be happier when I meet you directly in London, Ryan. I'm looking forward to that.
I love it. Dr. Bruce, appreciate you. Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much. And I really want to thank our listeners because I hope we gave them enough, a little bit of some seeds, a little bit of light to grow something different in their world. Because if you asked me 40 years ago, I would have given you a whole different answers than what we're talking about here today. And it was the new answers that allowed me to honestly say, I'm enjoying this part of heaven more than I can explain it to anybody. And I'm going to get that hug from you because that's a real positive. That's a positive vibe I'm looking for in London.
Oh, beautiful. I'll see you soon, Dr. Bruce.
Thank you so very much, Ryan. Thank you for letting me be here again.
Hey, my friends, thank you for making it to the end. I hope that our time spent together today has left you a little bit better than before you push play. I'd really appreciate if you just took a moment to leave a review to allow me to meet more people where they are and hopefully leave them a little bit better too. If you're curious to know how I, through Always Better Than Yesterday, can serve you, your team, your organisation, then head to alwaysbetterthanyesterday.com to connect. And while you're there, let me know one or two things that you're going to do as a result of listening to this conversation. I absolutely love hearing your thoughts, your reflections, and the things that this spark in your own heart and mind. If you want more insights from my heart and mind, I do send out short episodes on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, and again, I hope that they serve you well. I appreciate you listening. I'm Ryan Hartley, host of the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast, a podcast for heart-centered leaders just like you. Keep leading, my friends. Always love.